Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07 and it's Monday. Let's do it again, shall we? We got another week ahead of us on this August 11th, 2025. Coming up at 6:05, we're going to talk to that independent journalist, Walter Kurt, who broke the story that it continues to have legs, continues to get more developments that has to do with a Fairfax County school, a high school, apparently, allegedly, accused of facilitating 2 abortions for 2 underage girls without parents' consent and paying for said abortions. And again, I want to remind you, this does not violate Fairfax County school policies. I also want to remind you that Abigail Spanberger has not commented on this story. So we're going to talk to the journalist who broke that story coming up at 6:05. 6:35 brings us our friend Carrie Sheffield from Independent Women's Voice to analyze the latest in the Sears-Spanberger race in Virginia. At 7:05, Joe DeGeneva, plenty to talk to Joe about. And then at 8:35, Sean Carney, president of 40 Days for Life. I don't know if you saw this story. A pro-life protester was attacked brutally by a man who is an abortion enthusiast, and that violent attacker got a slap on the wrist from a judge. Like, jaywalking kind of thing. Is jaywalking still a thing, Julie Gunlock? Do we still?
I doubt it.
Oh, no, that they'll get you for. That you get 30 days minimum,
okay.
Yeah.
But only if you're a conservative, right? There
Exactly. Good morning. How's your Monday and how was your weekend?
It was great. My kids, there was some college touring going on, and so 3 of them were out of the house, and they managed to go to the Buc-ee's.
Oh, so they were down south.
Yes, and they brought me a Buc-ee's, sort of like a cozy thing. So, which for apparently is
for your beer can.
Yes, for my beer can. How
Mama
lovely.
want this.
Yeah, but it was fun. They actually got a variety of some of the Buc-ee's food, so they all thumbs up from them. They loved it.
They liked their Buc-ee's visit. So they were down. Oh, that's right. That's down like 2 hours south in Virginia. Is that Buc-ee's?
Yeah. So they, and I have stair steps. So it's like we get one off to college, and the next year we're doing it again. So
yes,
we're just doing group visits at this point. Anyway, it was a good weekend. Yeah,
this is a good thing. Excellent. Well, it wasn't a great weekend for Democrats. Democrat lawmakers, Democrat governors, Democrat has-beens like Eric Holder, people who are trying to continue to rationalize their resistance to Texas legally and constitutionally redistricting to better reflect the population in that state versus, what Democrats have been doing for decades. And by the way, I just want to be clear. I'm not pretending that what Texas is doing isn't specifically gerrymandering their districts to increase Republican representation. That's absolutely what they're doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. I know that because Democrats have been doing it forever, and they get away with it.
Yep.
I live in a state that has become sort of the poster child for this. What had been a 5-5 Republican-Democrat makeup in Maryland in 1985 has now morphed to 7-1. Yeah. And it's not like the state votes differently statewide than they did in 1985.
Right. These are admittedly mostly left-leaning states, but that voted 40% for Trump.
Right.
And have one member in the House of Representatives. How is this fair?
And Martin O'Malley admitted under oath when this was being investigated, he said, we carved up 6 and we carved up, I think it was 3, because we wanted to get rid of the Republican representation there. That's what they did. All right, so first up, where to begin here? I think my favorite actually is the headline from Politico. Politico is just contorting themselves, twisting themselves into a pretzel to try to rationalize this and try to give cover to Democrats. So here was their headline. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Because J.B. Pritzker, Kathy Hochul, Gavin Newsom, they're the ones who were tip of the spear on this, and they're the ones who are the guiltiest.
Right, and they're the ones that the Democrats are trotting out to defend it.
Right.
To say, I'm sorry, not to defend it, to say the Republicans are evil
Yes.
And
how dare they do this, these Republicans?
Yes.
And everyone's like, Jamie, I mean, even Kirsten Welker at Meet the Press had to say, Governor Pritzker, are you really the best person?
Isn't this a little bit hypocritical? I couldn't believe it. It's the first time. She'd even had enough.
We'll let you hear that in a second. But first, here's the headline from Politico. Are you ready? Democrats try to separate their tactical use of redistricting from that of Republicans.
Tactical use.
Yes.
Okay.
So let's break it down. First of all, the whole genesis of the story, the crux of the headline is Republicans have done this thing, and now Democrats have to respond. So Republicans are pouncing on Democrats.
Yes, precisely. Pouncing, yes.
And now they have to separate their tactical use of redistricting from that of Republicans. So there you go. That's your political.
When it's a tactic used to keep Republicans out of the House of I mean, what do they mean? It's headline writers are kind of famous for distorting things, and boy, that deserves an award.
All right, so here's Pritzker on Meet the Press with the aforementioned Kirsten Welker.
Every major group that grades the fairness of congressional maps gives your state an F. Common Cause, a nonpartisan government watchdog, even says your map, and I'm going to quote, represents a nearly perfect model for everything that can go wrong with redistricting. And I guess the question is, you talk about preserving democracy. How do you preserve democracy if you're using the same tactics that you've criticized Texas Republicans for?
Now, again, before we praise Kirsten Welker too much, I really do feel like she's asking this question from a position of, please help us help you, please. Well,
exactly.
You've got to have a good answer to this, right?
Right. You must have tested some of the answers to this.
Yes. Yeah. On the face of it, I know that Republicans are pouncing on you, and so please tell us why it's not, why Illinois is pristine. Listen to Pritzker's answer.
But as I say, what they're talking about is a distraction. The reality is that the violation of people's voting rights is what Texas is attempting to do. That's what's wrong with their efforts right now. And the fact that the president of the United States knows it and nevertheless is...
So bringing up that I've done exactly the same, if not much, much worse than what Texas is doing, that's a distraction.
Well, and also he pivots immediately to Trump. Notice that's always what they do. Anytime they get in a jam, it's Trump. When Trump does it, it's bad.
Right. I did it to defeat Trump, so it's okay. They're doing it to help Trump. That makes it evil. And Texas is violating voter rights. Wait, we're talking about objectively the exact same thing. When you did it, pay no attention. That's a distraction to even bring up the fact that I'm a hypocrite. Don't distract people by pointing out that I'm a hypocrite. When Texas does it, they're violating voting rights. Which, by the way, if that's true, why aren't they challenging this in court? Have you noticed that they're not?
Right, and exactly. But also, this is you mentioned Kristen Welker, and before we give her too much, this is another area where, okay, she asked the question, and there's never follow up.
No.
Where he gives such an absurd answer, and there's no follow up, no calling him out.
Right.
Just letting him ramble, which proves your point. This was a layup for them to give some nonsensical answer that sounds good.
That's right. Kirsten Welker's inner monologue was, "Oh, this is a distraction. Well, I better not play that game." Okay, fine.
Right.
I don't want to engage in a Republican distraction. Okay, Governor Pritzker, let's move on. Nice tie. You'll hear from Kathy Hochul in a moment. And also Eric Holder. Now, why were they trotting out Eric Holder to talk about this stuff? The former Attorney General, former wingman for Barack Obama. Well, it turns out he's very much involved in gerrymandering and redistricting on behalf of Democrats. So he's an expert here. Whether they disclosed all of that or not, I'm not sure. We'll give you the details in a moment. First, though, it's 5:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Here's how National Review summarized it. They said it was only 3 years ago that New York's Democratic legislature drew up a map so brazenly contemptuous of basic rules that govern a district's contiguousness that the state's Democrat-dominated Court of Appeals threw it out. The New York Times at the time called those maps comically contorted. That's their quote. So your state's highest court at the time, all the judges appointed by Democratic governors, they threw the maps out. So fair to say Democrats have done what they're now accusing Republicans of doing.
No, we followed the rules. We do it every 10 years. We base it on census.
But the court said you didn't follow the rules.
Well, we did follow the rules.
So the court was wrong?
Well, we followed the rules.
She has her talking points. She is not deviating from those talking points.
Shannon Bream with Kathy Hochul, and this whole follow the rules. Right? Wait, we don't live by rules. We live by laws. Are they doing something illegal? If they are, then it should be real easy, just like in your state, Governor Hochul, for a court to say, hell no. That's not the case. They're trying to distract the American people here. Listen, you might not like the politics of this, and if you don't like redistricting like this, you don't like gerrymandering for political purposes, great. Let's rewrite the last 180 years of history in this country. But this is what's done. And that's maybe my favorite talking point of all, is that you hear people like Pritzker and Hochul and all this saying, you know what, we would love to do away with all gerrymandering. Let's redraw every district in the country. They're so terrified, yes, Julie, that Texas is about to do this. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. We actually explained this to our kids this weekend and showed them some maps, right? And that one in Illinois, which is actually in an area, I grew up in central Illinois, and that area that goes from central Illinois all the way down to East St. Louis. And I was explaining to my kids, like, I'm familiar with that drive, and I know, and I said to my sons, I said, can you imagine being the representative of that district, going from rural, corn and soybean fields and fields of corn and soybeans and rural communities of, little towns of 1,000 to East St. Louis with the crime and the problems in East St. Louis. And, it was a really, and then, to see Pritzker up there. Yeah, it really is. It's a fascinating issue, and it is a perfect issue to illustrate to children what liars politicians can be. On the left.
Yeah, well, and speaking of that, although I'm going to get to the big liar Eric Holder in a sec, but to be fair, the one upside of that district you're talking about right now is who got drawn out of representation in Illinois thanks to that. It was Adam Kinzinger.
Yes.
It's so beautiful. It's like the one Illinois gerrymandering I can kind of get behind. It's like, wait a second, what about the Republican? Well, it's Adam Kinzinger. Oh, okay.
I didn't add that into the lesson to the kids, but maybe I will have to add that in.
All right, so here's Eric Holder. Now, what's Eric Holder doing out there? You haven't heard from Eric Holder in a while, right? Former Attorney General, wingman for Barack Obama. Here, let's take a listen.
Let me ask you, how can gerrymandering both be a threat to democracy and also the way to save it?
Well, there's no question that gerrymandering is a threat to our democracy. It allows politicians to pick their voters as opposed to citizens choosing their representatives. But we are now in a situation where we find ourselves where authoritarian moves are being made by the White House through various states, Texas most prominent among them. And there has to be a response to that. What I've said is that we have to protect our democracy now if we ultimately want to be able to save it. And so taking the reasonable steps that have been proposed in California, I think it makes a great deal of sense in this moment. A temporary way in which to respond to that which is happening in Texas, with the thought that after this crisis is passed, we get back to the fight against gerrymandering by anybody.
Yeah, we don't want any gerrymandering by anybody. So it's a threat to democracy what they're doing, so we need to do it back to them, because the best way to save democracy from the threat to democracy is to threaten democracy, but on our terms. Did you follow that?
Temporary tyranny. It's all the rage.
But by the way, this whole, we just have to do this now as a response. Let me explain something. He was there because he represents an organization called the National Democratic Redistricting Committee. Mm-hmm. Governor Scott Walker of Young America's Foundation pulled the 990. That's the form that nonprofits and political groups need to file with the federal government to register as a political tax-exempt organization. They make it sound like, they quickly formed this thing in a response to the Republicans. No, this form was filed in 2017. The year after Trump won the election, Eric Holder has been working and briefly describe the organization's mission. Okay, here's the mission of the group Eric Holder works for: to favorably position Democrats for the redistricting process. That's what he does. He's been gerrymandering for Democrats since 2017 for a living.
So have I got this right? So he's presenting himself as someone who works for an organization that's sort of anti-gerrymandering just in general. Yeah. No, it's pro-gerrymandering if it benefits the Democrats. Got it.
He literally runs a redistricting organization. And then he goes on media condemning Republicans for redistricting. And let me be clear. He doesn't run an organization specifically for redistricting. He runs an organization specifically for Democrat redistricting.
To get elected. Yep.
That's what he does.
Think of that. Nobody pulled that 990 nobody in these media organizations pulled the 990. Right. That would have taken 3 minutes.
That's right. Oh, Eric Holder calls up his PR people. Eric Holder wants to talk about this. He represents the National Democratic Redistricting Committee. Oh, that must be the response. No. This was we talk about Illinois' redistricting. That was Eric Holder. That was his organization. He goes into states and says, hey, you want to maximize Democrat representation? Here's how you do it. And they use computer models now. That's part of what's going on here. This isn't like the good old days when people would get into a back smoke-filled room and sort of draw out the county lines and give me this block or give me that block. No, they spit it into a computer and artificial intelligence figures out how Democrats can get the most representation. That's what Eric Holder does. And then NBC News has him on as an expert about redistricting and to talk about fairness and the law. He's a former attorney general, after all.
Right. It's sickening.
It's
absolutely sickening.
Sickening and duplicitous and vile and, it's Democrat politics. Coming up at 7:05, we'll ask Joe DeGeneva about this and a whole lot more. But right now, Julie, my gosh, it's 5:25.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:37 this Monday morning. Thanks for tuning in. It's O'Connor and Company from your nation's capital. Coming up later in the program at 6:05 in particular, we're going to talk to Walter Kurt. He's an independent journalist who broke the story about the alleged facilitation for abortion procedures in Fairfax County schools. 6:35, Carrie Sheffield, Independent Women's Voice on the Virginia governor battle. 7:05, Joe DeGeneva on, pretty much everything. And then at 8:35, Sean Carney, 40 Days for Life, talk about how a man got a slap on the wrist for brutally attacking pro-life protesters. We'll talk about all of that this morning. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. Morning, Julie.
Good morning.
The president is following up on last week's announcement that he intends to help federalize law enforcement efforts in the nation's capital. With a post yesterday, let me read it. He announces a news conference for this morning, scheduled currently at 10 a.m. He says, we're having a news conference tomorrow in the White House. I'm going to make our capital safer and more beautiful than it ever was before. The homeless have to move out immediately. We will give you places to stay, but far from the Capitol. Let me pause there. Accompanying this post on Truth Social and followed up on X are two pictures of people living in tents on what I think it's Rockville. I think it's Rock Creek Park. I'm not sure. It could be off of the mall.
Yeah, they're there, and they're all over.
Yeah, they are all over. And I'll tell you, the pictures look like they were taken from someone in a car. It could have been, Trump was in the Beast and said, take a picture of that. Totally. Take a picture. Right? Yeah. Although I don't know the Beast drives around D.C. very often, but it could have been from the press secretary or anybody who works at the White House. But he specifically had these little tent cities that have popped up in D.C. and been here really for the last, as long as I've lived here. Some of the areas are notorious right around Union Station, right around well, I got to say, Farragut Square used to be horrible and ubiquitous. It's not as bad. Didn't we? We were just walking through that with your sons, with your family, like 2 weeks ago.
I know,
and I had
yeah.
prepared them for the smell of marijuana as we went through that
various
part.
things.
Yes, it
Yeah.
wasn't quite as bad. And then there's also the little, like I morbidly call it the grassy knoll over by the Kennedy Center, just past the Kennedy Center on that hill looking over the Potomac. Constantly there are homeless tents there.
I mean, I've talked about how, to drive into the studio, I mean, when it's in early morning, it's dark, I can't see things. Then I'm driving home, going the same path home, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a tent. It looks like the Boy Scout Jamboree, the thing where they do it. Literally, I'm like, Rock Creek Parkway looks like a Boy Scout out. It really, it's insane.
I believe they're now called the Scouts.
Stop! No, I don't do that. Don't
so
trigger
he says
me.
the homeless have to move out immediately. We will give you places to stay, but far from the capital. The criminals, you don't have to move out. We're going to put you in jail where you belong. It's all going to happen very fast, just like the border. We went from millions pouring in to zero in the last few months. This will be easier. Be prepared. There will be no more Mr. Nice Guy. We want our capital back. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That was yesterday. The press conference will be at 10 a.m. today. And now we have two stories, one from Reuters and the New York Post. Reuters and the New York Post saying that the military is preparing to surge National Guard troops in D.C. to facilitate this process. And the Independent says that the FBI is sending over 100 agents into the D.C. streets to help facilitate law enforcement with regard to carjacking and other crime in Washington, D.C. Let's go.
This is what I voted for.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I voted for. And now cue all there's going to be tiers, of course, from the Democrats, but also the never Trumpers, right? They're going to claim this is tyranny. This is what a diabolical tyrant does. All authoritarian, calling out the troops, right? This is making our nation's capital safer, which is so sad that it has become a no-go zone for tourists in this country.
Yeah, the homicides in our nation's capital, in the capital of the United States of America on a per capita basis compared to, places like Nairobi and Bogota, Colombia. We gave you the stats on Friday, I believe it was. It's embarrassing. It's a disgrace, is what it is, and it can be handled. It can be, but the political will has not been there in the District Council in the District of Columbia. The question is, and I understand it's like, oh, we don't want troops in our capital. Okay, what would you rather see? Would you rather see armed troops helping to keep order and helping the police department actually keep things safe? Or would you rather see marauding gangs and having to look over your shoulder because you're about to get abducted or carjacked?
There was a young Capitol Hill staffer just a couple months ago murdered on the streets.
Yeah.
Something like 21 years old. Is that what you'd rather see?
And Julie, you said that Democrats are going. I don't know if Democrat politicians will necessarily complain about this. I think they'll quietly be in favor of it because their staffers have to walk these streets too. I mean, unless you're Jasmine Crockett, where you take an Uber 2 blocks from your apartment to get to
where
the
you
committee.
Don't see your staff.
Yeah, exactly. They're more afraid of her than they are of the carjackers.
Exactly.
We'll ask Joe DeGeneva about the federalization issues here at 7:05 when he joins us. And make no mistake, this is a big deal, and it's a president deciding, okay, you can't do it, D.C., I'll do it. You've had 6 months. It's my turn. The question is, will Muriel Bowser be included in this press conference? That will be fascinating to see.
It will be.
It's 5:43.
This afternoon on the Derek Hunter Show, Democrats are going to hate you anyway. We might as well make fun of them in the process. 3 o'clock on WMAL.
Julie Gunlock. We got an announcement yesterday signifying the end of an era, a significant cultural development. Let me give you a hint. Do you remember this sound? That's right. The sound of dial-up for AOL Internet access. Believe it or not, it's still an option. And there are still thousands of people who utilize a dial-up modem to connect to America Online. But AOL just announced that they will be ending that service on September 30th of 2025.
Wow. What's going to happen to the thousands of people who still use it?
Well, they might have to,
finally buckle down.
Get rid of their rotary phone
Move.
and their VCR. And this is just the beginning. I don't mean to mock people, but at this point, broadband and digital access is pretty ubiquitous, isn't it? I mean, even if it's not like high-speed broadband, who's still connecting?
I don't know. The people who rely on PBS for the weather.
Right? I don't know.
I used to get up. I had to be at work, 8:39, and I would get up at 6. And I remember I'd turn my computer on and then in my office, and then I would go to the kitchen and make coffee.
Yeah.
And remember that?
You have a whole list of things you could do while you're connecting.
I mean, you think about let me put it in how the vernacular of the kids these days. You could do your whole skin treatment, right? Your entire skin routine could be done in the time that it would take your computer to get booted up, right?
Yes.
Because the computers didn't start right away either.
Right.
They took a while too.
That took a while as well.
I'm kind of reaching back, but this life was slower, Larry.
And then eventually you would hear that you've got mail, and it's like, oh, okay, we're connected. Yay.
Yes.
Yeah. Here's the numbers. In 2005, 13.5 million people were connecting to AOL via dial-up. In just 5 years, that number, by 2010, that number dropped to 4.6 million. Now, again, and I think of dial-up as like a 90s thing, I mean,
yeah.
Right? Maybe early 2000s. But I remember when I mean, back in the old days, like 92 or 93.
I can't remember 92 anymore, but go on.
I remember how liberating it was to move from a 2400 baud modem to a 9600 baud modem. It was like, oh my gosh, this is screaming.
And now, Larry, think about how triggered we are if our computers take more than 2 seconds.
Oh, I know.
We're like, what's going on? What's happening?
With this thing? Oh, no, I'm literally investigating getting Elon Musk's Starlink so I can be in the middle of the ocean on a cruise ship and stream video on YouTube.
No,
so,
it's
yes.
a show from the
we have
cruise ship.
definitely oh my God, what a game changer that would be. We have progressed. In 2010, it was about 4.6 million still using dial-up. By 2015, that had been cut more in half to 2.1 million. By 2021, we were looking in the low thousands, and that's where we are right now. It's still the low, which is, here's an interesting number. In 2017, according to Pew Research, only 0.3% of Americans were using dial-up. But 0.3% of Americans is about 360,000, right?
Yeah.
So you're AOL and you're still servicing 360,000 households. What do you do to those customers? But now it's down to what they're saying. According to AOL, it's in the low thousands. That's according to AOL and CNBC.
Rural areas.
So we basically nearly completely transitioned now to broadband all across. And I mentioned Elon Musk's Starlink. I mean, if you are in a rural area that is not serviced in any way whatsoever by anything, but that you can actually get your own little satellite dish, which you probably have already for television. Right. And you'll be able to connect. But see, that's the other thing. I mean, most of these rural areas, people have a satellite for TV, and those satellites you can then utilize for broadband and high-speed internet as well, like a cable modem. So
the pace of changes these days, Larry, it just really is unbelievable. I mean, I try to sometimes, I'll have conversations with my kids about a couple years ago. We were in Colorado, and they had an old-fashioned phone. And just watching my kids try to figure out what this thing was very funny. But I try to talk to them, about what life was like. Even the year they were born. It's, my kids aren't that old.
Right,
and it is remarkable how things have changed.
Oh, yeah.
And are going to continue to change. And pretty soon, Elon Musk, when you hear him interviewed and he talks about like robots will be serving you, it's I don't know. It's unsettling. I mean, I think as we get older, it gets more, my parents sometimes bemoan the good old days, right? And so I think this is natural. But the pace of changes in the society, it's just hard to keep up.
I mean, you think 10 years ago, if you said, cars are going to be driving themselves soon, we're there. Cars drive themselves now.
Yeah.
I saw a business the other day that is basically it's a human-sized drone that you will be able to call like Uber. They're already using this like in Saudi Arabia and I think United Arab Emirates. It's a publicly held company, by the way. That's why I was investigating it, because it could be a game changer. Basically, a drone that can carry a human being comes to your doorstep. You sit in it, and it takes you to the airport, flying above.
Flies?
Yes.
No. Not doing it.
Yes.
Nope.
The FAA is already testing it out right now. It could be within 5 to 10 years. That's how you will go to the airport.
A burrito delivered by drone is fine, but me as no.
Well, back to AOL. By the way, do you still have your AOL email address?
Larry, I don't. When the Wi-Fi goes down, an AOL email.
Yeah,
no,
is there?
Thank God, because I'm so glad I have Yahoo. That was like the first, which was I guess But no, I love the people of Hotmail, and no, I don't have AOL.
My ex-wife still utilizes her
Really?
AOL. Yes. I think my email address still exists out there, but I can't remember the last time I checked it. It was very funny when I first started working for Andrew Breitbart in 2010. He used AIM. All of these guys, he and Matt Drudge, and they were all on AIM. And Hannity and Ann Coulter, they all had these little AIM things. And Andrew's was Bo Diaz was his screen name. Did you have a clever screen name on AOL?
No, I'm not creative that way. I'm not. I would.
You were just Julie G.
Yeah, boring, sir.
Or something like that. I was Larry O.C., but the O and C were the letter O and then S-E-E.
Look at you.
Larry O.C. is how I did
smart.
That. Yeah.
Very smart.
Oh, now you've all got my Tinder account. It's 5:54.